What's up, guys? Jeremy here from school.com/financial coaching. Hey, if you are like me, you maybe feel like entrepreneurship is overhyped, a little bit over glorified even in Western culture. And it gets a little bit annoying maybe to see so much content on YouTube and wherever talking about entrepreneurship, especially the kind of eye-rolling effect of so and so. It's like how you can make millions of dollars, like the uber successful, or at least portraying themselves as uber successful entrepreneur, can leave a bitter taste in your mouth, because half the time they end up being scam phony people, and the other half the time it's like they have unique abilities and had unique circumstances. And it's not like it was all luck that they achieved their success. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am trying to say is often it's not recreatable. Like, you can't follow in their footsteps and do what they did. And so you're just consuming this content that's like flexing all over you, making you feel so low and weak, and making their life seem so amazing and great. But under the surface, their life might not be so amazing and great. And so how do you even know who to trust? And so ultimately it just ends up like getting a little old, right? To consume all this hype entrepreneurship content, especially because so often it's focused on this success, happy, look how amazing and how great. And so I'm 2 years in now, or over 2 years, to being a full-time entrepreneur. And I wanted to reflect on this for a minute, because the reality is entrepreneurship is overhyped, but it's like better than advertised simultaneously. And I'm saying this from someone that doesn't have a course for sale, that's not like uber successful entrepreneurship. And that's why I wanted to highlight a few maybe underappreciated aspects of being an entrepreneur that are not tied to the obvious. Like, the obvious is like you have an unlimited ceiling as far as how much money you can make. And that's not true unless you're an entrepreneur, unless you're in charge. Someone else is in charge and has to sign off on what you get paid, or what your commission scale is, or whatever. When you're an entrepreneur, you're in charge, and you can make a ton of money. You can. But I think that's the part that's overhyped, because not everyone's going to make a ton of money being an entrepreneur. And the perspective I wanted to share about is really thinking about my first year and a half. Like, I'm 18 months into entrepreneurship, and what was I reflecting on at that time? Because at this point, I'm not uber successful, but like, I've built a few businesses, and I'd say 3 of them are like 6-figure plus valuations at this point. So not like otherworldly success, but like, my wife stays at home now. I'm a full-time entrepreneur, and if it takes 2 years to have, afforded our life, paid our bills, and simultaneously built enterprises worth several $100,000, then like, that was still a better pay than I would have made like in a job. And we're just 2 years in, right? It's just the beginning. So like, at this point, I am in this like, okay, like, to have an unlimited income ceiling is actually pretty nice. But here's some underappreciated aspects that I noticed even when I was in the grind, even when I hadn't really made a dollar net. Like, I haven't, a year and a half in, I had not net a dollar. Honestly, I'm pretty sure. If you were to, like, in some of my businesses I have, but if you were to like cumulatively evaluate them, it's like the losses from my resale business outweighed the gains from any of my other businesses at that time. And here's what's crazy, guys. I was having more fun than ever. Like, I was having more fun than ever. And I remember talking with my uncle at Christmas time. And my uncle has been an entrepreneur for the vast majority of his life. He's, I don't know how old he is, late 50s maybe. Maybe he's in his 60s. I don't know. Obviously, like, his money in and out. We're not close like that. but generally speaking, he's been like successful enough to, like, they've lived, right? Like they've provided for their lives, but he's never been like a um, YouTube uber success, you can make $20 trillion entrepreneur. Like he's very much been in the like mom and pop business, we're paying the bills and we're making it entrepreneur. And so I was talking with him at Christmas and I was just externally processing like how I'm like, man, I am working twice as hard for a fraction of the pay, and like I absolutely would not trade it. Like nothing in me wants to go to a normal job, even if you were to tell me it's fewer hours and better pay and way less difficult work, etc. And he looked at me and he's like, "You'll never go back. You'll never go back." And he was validating what I had experienced, which is like there is something so life-giving about this. And so I want to kind of distill it down into a few elements that you really might not be thinking about as it relates to entrepreneurship. And part of that fun is that you get to make the decisions, and there's a freedom. Like it feels like freedom. Everything is a clean slate. So like how many hours you work is totally up to you. What you're working on is totally up to you. Whether you succeed or fail, totally up to you. And there's like there's a fulfillment there that is profound, but there's also just the game of the challenge. Like even if you fail, it is so fun to try. As long as you don't take life so seriously that you think your identity is on the line and your value as a human being is on the line based on how much money you make in a business you start. Like if you're that insecure, okay, don't do entrepreneurship. Like let someone else pay your bills. But if you have an internal sense of worth, it's like, okay, if I fail, it would be difficult, but like it's not like my life is over. It's not like I become worthless, you know. Like my soul still has some value, right? Like if you take away my identity's on the line, the game of try this, and it's going to be way harder than anything you've tried before, and it's going to require everything you have, but like you can do it. It's like it's hard to express how awesome that feels in terms of like how focused and energized you are during your work. So there's a life-giving aspect to that and a fulfilling aspect to that you experience even if you fail. What I'm trying to say is these are not tied to you're a super successful entrepreneur. I'm just saying like the experience of entrepreneurship, plain and simple, for anyone at any stage of entrepreneurship. Another aspect is relationally. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a job where you feel like there's some like competitiveness internally in the job of like who's going to stand out, who's going to get promoted, who's doing a good job or a bad job. I don't know if you've ever had a job where like the boss has a significant say on like whether or not you get promoted, whether you keep your job. Maybe you have annual reviews and you're nervous about how they're going to grade you or what feedback they're going to give you. Maybe you get a project that you have to work on that feels like maybe it's not super in line with your job description, but you've been asked to do it, and so now like maybe you have to do it anyways. And the list goes on and on and on of relational compromises and conflicts of interest that just steal from your soul in most jobs. Like there's just you have to play your whole every day. You're playing cards in a hand, trying to get promoted, which is there's a level of just self salesmanship with that, but it ends up like kind of robbing you of your joy a little bit. But also you're trying to stay alive, like you're trying to keep your job. Like you can lose your job, you know, like, and so relationally you end up with these, it can get kind of toxic, right? Most people don't like their boss, and it's not because all their bosses are horrible people. It's because the dynamic of being an employee is just relationally conflicting, like plain and simple. So when you're an entrepreneur, like, you don't have that. Like, I don't know if you've, maybe at work, like, you feel like, man, what should I be doing right now? What's like the most important thing I should do? And maybe, or you do something and you're like, oh, what would my boss think? Like, is that what they would want me to do? Right? You're just thinking relationship. Like, how do I people please is always on your mind. And in entrepreneurship, it's not. It's like, I can do whatever I want to do. And like, it's not right or wrong. You know, like, it's just what I did. Like, there's no one that's going to be upset. There's no one that's going to be happy. Like, I don't have to fear this worst case scenario of, what if I tried my best to do this job as best as I could, and I still am deemed unsuccessful because someone's opinions that I don't know what they are, and I'm having to like read between the lines to figure them out. Even easy jobs, like, have you ever had an easy job, like you get paid for basically not doing hardly anything, or you just have a slow day at work and you're like, I'm just gonna like be here, you know? And so you're scrolling on social media half the time and checking some emails, and you're like, man, I can get some of my grocery shopping done. Like, this should be nice, right? Like, I'm getting paid to just do my normal life, and then when I get home, like, life is already done and I can just enjoy my time. Like, you should be loving that, right? But then you go home and you feel like you got run over by a train. Like, it feels horrible inside because you're not engaged. And so with entrepreneurship, you don't have that. Like, you don't have this, what should I do? Am I doing something right or wrong? Relational compromises. You don't have corporate politics, relational compromises. You don't have a boss, for better or for worse, and no one else is in charge of you, or like there's no people pleasing. And that is, it's hard to describe how freeing that can be, because so many jobs, your success is dependent on the team and the other people's perceptions of you, and that can get really difficult to try to navigate. I mean, truly, there are not very many jobs where you can just do whatever you think is right and not have to be like somehow relationally accountable for it. And the relationships is detached sometimes from the actual outcome of your decision, right? Like, Mark Cuban famously got fired from his job working at some type of feed store or something. I don't know what type of store it was, but he was supposed to leave, like, he was supposed to be there at 9 a.m. on Saturday. And he tells his boss, like, hey, I'm going to meet, like, this person wants to do a ton of business. Like, they're going to be $100K a year customer. Like, I got to do this sales meeting. And no one comes at 9 a.m. anyways. Like, no one starts coming till noon. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to meet with this person, secure this customer that's going to be huge for our business, and then I'll come and open. And the boss was like, if you do that, you're fired. And Mark Cuban's like, are you an idiot? Like, you're going to pay me to, like, you're going to pay me to stay over here when I could make your business all this money. And so in his own heart, he couldn't do it. He's like, I have to do what makes sense for the business, even if it costs me the job, right? And he did, and he secured the customer, and he got fired, you know? And he said, like, that's the last time I'm ever working for someone. Like, the relationships, it's more taxing on your soul than you realize until you're no longer in that world. Which brings me to another piece, the job security. When you're an entrepreneur, like, you cannot lose your job. No one can take your job. Like, you can do a bad job, but no, like, you can't get fired. And I promise you, if you're an employee, you are aware of the possibility that you could get fired, and it affects you. Like, your body keeps the score, right? And in entrepreneurship, again, like, I'm not saying you necessarily will make all this money and that you'll crush it, or that your business could never fail. Your business can fail. That's a different type of stress, but you are in control. Like, you, not control, but a lot closer to control. You're like, you can pivot, you can learn, you can improve, you can develop, you can change directions. You can like, whereas the hypothetical of you getting fired, it's like the economy could just happen and you get fired. You could do an amazing job, be an amazing employee, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we're paying you so much. Like, it's like, yeah, you're paying me that much because I'm worth it. And they're like, yeah, sorry, we're just gonna get some interns. You're like, gosh, frick, you know what I mean? Like, at any point, of course, if you're a deadbeat employee, you could lose your job at any moment. But even if you're a successful one, what I'm saying is, like, you don't control it. In that, it's not like it's so bad to be an employee. That's not really what I'm trying to get at in this video. Because it's not so bad, because you're used to it. You know how to do all these things. Because that's just what we're trained to do. But what I'm saying is, once you get out of that vortex, it's just like, oh my gosh. Like, what in the world? Like, how have I been wasting so much energy and effort on, like, on keeping my job and keeping everyone happy with me and trying to make more money at my job, but also trying to create pathways for how else could I get a job if I happen to lose my job? What's my backup plan? And, like, what's my side hustle income? And, like it is, and it's not super fulfilling. And what can I do to make this more fun? And I don't really enjoy it, but I'm not really allowed to enjoy it. I'm just supposed to, like, suck it up and do it. And, like, is this what the world is? And you get jaded, and you leave all that, and it's like 100% flexibility with how much you make, how much you work, when you work, who works for you, who you work with. Like, it's all freedom. Even if you worked 100 hours a week, which I've never done in my life, like, it would still feel like freedom. That's what I'm trying to express, is because now you are choosing to do that with your time because you decided. Whereas even if you had a job that paid you 100 grand a year to work 20 hours a week, that's 20 whole hours every week that are, like, decided for you, that are controlled in your life. And you, again, the body keeps the score. Like, you know, there's anxiety attached to, like, you are dependent. And when you get into entrepreneurship, it really is like, it's better. It's better. I'm telling you, I understand all the overhype. It puts a bad taste in my mouth too. And I don't think everyone can succeed as an entrepreneur, but it is so much, it's so much better than anyone tells you it is. Like, it's better than the most overhyped video you've watched. Because here's the last piece, maybe the last piece, is you are so much more employable after you have become an entrepreneur. Multiple times during my entrepreneurship, even in that first year and a half when I hadn't succeeded yet, like, it was not uncommon for someone to tell me, hey, like, let me know, like, if, like, I'm sure you're gonna crush it, I'm sure you're gonna succeed, hoping the best for you, but, like, if you need, like, let me know if it doesn't. And these people that are telling me that are, like, people that are employers. Like, they're pretty much like, because here's the thing, it's very hard as an employer to teach an entrepreneurial mindset. It is hard to teach an employee with an employee mindset how to think as the business and not just think within the confines of their job. It's very difficult to teach that level of ownership. Even if you give someone equity in the company, it's still very hard to get that level of ownership to help it click in their head. What's worth the time, what's not, what's important, what's not. And as when you have an experience as an entrepreneur, basically it opened up career paths for me of, like, man, if I want to go make 6 figures as a manager at this company or in this sector or in this sector, I'm like, I'm an email away. Not that any of those were, like, guaranteed to me, and I never pursued them because I was pretty sure I'm going to succeed as an entrepreneur, even though it was, like, so brutally painful to get to that point, which it doesn't have to be, by the way. It just was for me because I never asked for help. But that's why I'm here to help you guys. All right. The point is, you're much more employable. So even if you fail as an entrepreneur, there's so much less anxiety attached to even that, because it's like you did the best thing you could have done. For most people, like, you leapfrogged your career path. Even if you go back into traditional careers, it's like you're so much more employable at so much higher paying jobs, and you're treated like with some level of like partnership, camaraderie. It's like if you get hired, it's like someone's hiring you to like help run their business. Even if you're just kind of like a store manager or something kind of low level ish, you can come in with that mindset and they can view you with that mindset. And so then the path to promotion is also that much faster because of these experiences you have as an entrepreneur, especially if you swung the bat for a year or for 2 or for 3. And the longer you go, the more employable you get because the more experience you're having. Versus like my resume is just tied to like, well, I did this many years at this company and I did what they asked me to do. And I spent this many years at this company. I did what they asked me to do. So I could work for your company and do what you asked me to do if you want. Like, it's totally different from like, I went into the jungle and I lived. Like, I hunted and gathered for my food. I made a shelter over here. Like, I'm a Swiss Army knife. And also I'm more attuned to what my strengths and weaknesses are. And I'm more attuned to how business works, etc. I said a year and a half into entrepreneurship, and I stand by this. Back when all I was doing was bleeding money. Like, it was costing me. Not only was I not making money, but I was spending money every month to be in business. And then we still had all our life expenses. So we were just like, boom, in the red. A lot of stress associated with that. Even then, what I said was, man, if somehow in life I could guarantee like food and shelter, like, if you tell me as an entrepreneur, I will never make any money at all, but I'll always have food and shelter. Or you tell me I could be an employee, make $500,000 a year in a super healthy company, working 35 hours a week. I'm like, literally, I would choose the entrepreneur route. Like, and that was before I made anything. Like, it wasn't even about how much can I make. It was about the experience of entrepreneurship. It's like, I feel more alive than I have ever felt in the context of work by far. And I think a lot of people would, as an entrepreneur. And so and I loved my jobs too. It was not like I was running away from toxic work environments. Like I said, I wasn't even aware, right? And so that's why I'm trying to make this video, to just if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, it's probably because at least a part of you is not 100% alive and fulfilled. Otherwise, why would you like dream about something else? Like, I'm not over here dreaming about like, man, I could go get that job. Like, seriously, I'm like, oh, I could throw up. Like, thinking about going back into like the traditional workforce. Like, why would you do that if you don't like, which, I mean, I guess it's like hypothetically possible. Like, I don't know. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked if I ever worked a normal job again. And I don't daydream about it. But if you are in a traditional job and you're daydreaming about being entrepreneurship, but you maybe have all these emotional hurdles about, man, should I really do it? What does it look like? How does it start? Like, I just wanted to put some context out there that, like, even without the overhype, the clout and the glorification and the now you're famous and now you're super wealthy and now everyone cares what you think about stuff, and like, take all that out, just your actual simple Sunday to Saturday experience of life, I think it's worth more than its weight in gold to work as an entrepreneur versus as an employee. And maybe that's just because I'm wired to be an entrepreneur, and maybe most people aren't wired that way, but I think probably a good amount of people, like, they have enough agency that they really would benefit from some of these benefits that I'm talking about, of just having that autonomy, having that security, and being free from all the games that we play with our time and with our money and with our energy and with our fulfillment and with our relationships, all the games that we have to play within being an employee, that all of a sudden get wiped clean in entrepreneurship, you can just focus on you, your goals, your life, and stop playing stupid games. All right. Let me know if that made sense. Let me know in the comments. What are your experiences been like as an employee? Have you been an entrepreneur? Love to hear about it. All right. Talk to y'all soon.